to another edition of the Mexico in the World podcast, so that we can talk about events, celebrations and more that happen in Mexico and the world. This time, we are going to start with the Global Handwashing Day. Why it is important. Because there are countries where the culture of the necessary hygiene of handwashing does not yet exist, and we also have to start by learning how to wash our hands well, as I was saying. There are some countries that do not have the culture, but also because they do not have what it takes to have that necessary hygiene for daily life, we have to make aware of these cultures that still do not have the facility to have that necessary hygiene and health, and also make aware that those who can wash their hands well for their own good and that of others is the Students' Day. Like this, how we celebrate Teachers' Day, there is also Students' Day. We have to celebrate it because being a student is also fun. There is also a lot of effort, RZO. Then there is also a long way to go before being a student, so let's celebrate the Students' Day is the day of food. Also, this leads us to consider that we must have a healthy diet. That leads us to think about the need that there is still in some countries for a really very noticeable lack of food that exists in some very poor countries in which this problem is still very serious, as I tell you, and there is no awareness of this. And as I had told you in another podcast, you have to be aware of not wasting food. There is also the day of the boss. If the bosses have their day, so we have to celebrate the boss, what is one's head, and let's celebrate it, especially when the boss is the head of the company, because someone who is the head of the company has a lot of responsibility. There is also the final day of the fight against poverty, which leads us once again to think of those countries, above all the poorest countries in the world, that have so much need that they, although they have the support of large world organizations, this is not enough. Not just these countries, but for example, there is Mexico, which, although it is not in the poorest countries in the world, there are some areas in which the truth is that poverty is terrible, so let us be aware. This has been all for this occasion. We thank you for listening to us, and we do not want to say goodbye without reminding you of our social networks. Email podcastmexicoandtheworld@gmail.com, Twitter @MexicoTheWorld, Facebook Podcast Mexico and the World, YouTube Mexico and the World. Thanks again for listening to us, and we look forward to seeing you in our next edition. Thanks, bye.